Welcome back, boys. Today we have an elite video for you today, and you're probably like, Gut, it's a Friday. Why you post on a Friday? Well, we decided to go to Mondays and Fridays, so you're going to be getting two videos from now on, Mondays and Fridays on the betting channel. Today we have a bangers. We are going over the basics, not necessarily the basics, but the beginner's guide to being the best bettor that we can be from the sports prop aspect. So we're going to be going over NBA, MLB, and NFL today on where to find what you need, what websites to go to, what stats to look at, kind of what you're supposed to be looking at. A pretty basic guide. We're not going to go in too in-depth, but if you want to go in-depth and we can do this in another video and have an advanced guide, make sure to let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, make sure to subscribe. We're on the road to 1K, so that's a goal for us by the NFL season. And make sure when you're down there, also leave a like because it supports the channel, and can't ask for anything more than that. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Let's get straight into the video. So as you can see, we're going to start out with the NBA. And again, we're going to have timestamps throughout this entire video. So if you want to skip to NFL, MLB, you can do that in the later parts of the video. I'm also going to start with going over Props.Cash, which is right over my head or like a little bit to my left. And this is what we're going to be mainly focusing on right now. Obviously, StatMuse to my left as we're looking at Anthony Edwards, just general stats for the past 5 games, all that sort of stuff. This is what my screen looks like literally 24/7. If you pass my screen in the office, this is probably what you'll see. Either StatMuse or whatever the hell is next to me, and then there'll always be Props.Cash to my right side of my screen. Nick, for a very long time, was like, what the fuck is on your screen? I'm like, hey, this is a very important thing for me to be a successful bettor, which we were in the NBA season, up 50 units on the NBA season in the regular season this year. So very proud of that, and you could do the same thing if you use these tools. So for now, since we're not going over StatMuse, we're going to go over Props.Cash. I'm going to move myself a little bit over on the screen so you can see the full, exactly what you need to see. This is everything you're going to be looking at on the Props.Cash screen, and we're going to dive right into it. So what you're going to see, you're going to be like, why the fuck are there so many colors, blah, blah, blah. I'm colorblind, don't even matter to me. But here's what we need to look at. Over under is going to be right where my cursor is, right here. You see it? Over is -115. Under is the U, which is -111 if we're looking at Nikhil Alexander, and we're looking at points. We have obviously the dates of games, and when there's a ton of games on, when the NFL's on, when NBA's in full suite, you'll have the full schedule of games right here. If we quickly just go to like WNBA, just for the hell of it, you'll see there's more games here, and this is how it will be lined up, and you'll see the times of the games, all that sort of stuff. But for the NBA right now, there's obviously only one game on it right now that we're going to know the future of, but as you see this video, you'll know the result of it, so who the hell knows. But we're looking at Dallas and Minnesota today. We're just going to go over Luka Doncic points. As you can see at the top, they have assists, rebounds, 3 points, PRA. If you want any of those stats, you can click on them and just look over. It'll change the graph, and you can see everything you need. But we're going to start with Luka points because it's a very common thing that people want to bet on, and as you can see on the graph, his line is set at 30.5 points. Over under at 104, under at -122. So you see where the books are leaning. Not only that, but you can see a lot of this graph is red. He's obviously has not hit this line besides 4 of the last 10 games. Whenever you see the L10, that means last 10, last 20, last 30, all is his entire career. Last 5 is the last 5 games. And head-to-head is when he plays Minnesota or whatever team he's playing. If they win tonight and they play Boston, it'll be just Boston. That's what you got to look at a lot of times because head-to-head matchups are very important in the NBA. And we can manipulate a lot of those stats for our favor. With that being said, his line is only set at 30.5. He's hit this in 60% of games, but we have other things we got to look at. If the line is set lower, because sometimes this isn't the most accurate where the books have it set, because we can go to odds. Right here, you see where my cursor is? Odds will tell you what every book has. And Underdog, a lot of times, will have even more of a discounted line. So make sure you're on Underdog using code BDGE because you'll also get $250 when you deposit. So you'll get a lot of money to bet with, and you'll get a free square, and you have all that sort of stuff. And most of the time, you get a discounted line because instead of 30.5, they'll have like 30. So that means it can push, which means that's profitable for you. Okay? That's what we need because then you won't lose money. Dub. So make sure you're on there. Next line of business. If you want to adjust the line, so say one of these odds has 29.5 and you're like, okay, I want to see where he's at 29.5. All you got to do is go to the filter, which is right here. You can see his line's all the way up to 37.5. I don't think I'm going to be setting a line there. But what I am going to be setting a line is like 29.5. Okay, what does that change? It changes a lot of the numbers right down here that you're looking at of the percentages of where he hit this. So he hit this in 66% of games. You go back to 30. He hit this in 60% of games. See the difference? Boom. Simple. Next thing, because we have a lot to talk about. I got to keep it pushing. We have supporting data at the bottom. This will give you your minutes. You can change this to potential assists if you're looking at assists. We can turn it to rebound chances if you have rebound chances. We can have field goal attempts if you're looking at field goal attempts and the percentage that they make it. You also can see the averages here at the right, which is massive. So when you see my write-ups, a lot of times you'll see, oh, he's averaging this over 10 games. That's how I find it. Over 20 games. Hey, over 30 games. This is how we're seeing it. Very simple, very easy, super easy to be laid out. And this is why these type of things on apps and things like Props.Cash, Outlier, all these sort of sites that you can use are very important because it's kind of an all-in-one shop. This is literally everything you need outside of very niche statistics that you can find in one spot for a good bet that you can place money on, that you will feel confident at the end of the day because you've seen his minutes, his field goal attempts, you see his averages against the players. If you're going to need super niche stats, that's where we're going to dive into the other side of where over to my left or right above me, technically, because I moved my screen. Okay, so now that we're done pretty much going over Props.Cash for the NBA, we're going to go over to some of the sites that we look at, that we need, that we're going to use, and one of them is going to be StatMuse. StatMuse, I'm going to glance over this one time because this equates to the NFL, MLB, and the NBA, is you can go and find any player stats from whatever games, from whatever matchups on StatMuse. It's super easy. If you want to go Anthony Edwards versus Denver, excuse my spelling because I'm typing this fast, versus Denver. Boom. You can see what he averages versus Denver. Stuff like stats like this are very cool for StatMuse because it's just like you literally pop it in, boom, done. You found it, whatever. You also can still find that on Props.Cash, but this is kind of more of a clean setup of where you kind of can see all the numbers laid out exactly right in front of you, that all the things that you need, the percentages, all that sort of stuff. Super easy, plus minus, whatever you need. So that's pretty much all it is for StatMuse. Now, Fantasy Basketball Monster. This is a site that I will use every single day, that I highly recommend. I posted it on my Twitter not too long ago. This is a site that we absolutely need to be using all the time. Why? It gives you live injury updates constantly, like every day. You can see if they're probable, if they're questionable, if they're doubtful, whatever it is, over here, and it's super helpful because you will constantly see what player is playing, where the lineup changes, because when you go to tools, you can go to NBA lineups, and this will give you a projected lineup every single day. As you can see, when it says verified lineup, which means that's the lineup it's going to happen, this will turn yellow. So if we go back a few days, obviously the lineups are yellow because the game's already happened. So that's the locked in lineup for what you're going to see. Now, during the NBA season, rotations are constantly moving. There's constantly new players coming in. There's constantly new players coming out. There's constantly new things happening. So this is very important to keep up with what player is playing what position, constantly being lined up at. So if like you're talking about Ben Simmons, is he going to be a power forward? Is he going to be playing point guard? This will let you know before the game even happens. So when you're looking at your projections, when you're looking at your positional matchups, which we're going to get to, you'll know where to kind of look. With that being said, we're going to hop straight into FanDuel. That's really all we have for Fantasy Basketball Monster. Because we go to Fantasy Pros. Fantasy Pros is massive. Again, you can use this on like NBA.com. There's a lot of different spots we can go to find these sort of things. But this is the defensive versus position matchup. Why is this important, Gut? Well, if you have a point guard, you want to know how well the other team does against point guards. So if we go to the last 15 games, obviously this is just regular season, so this won't have playoffs. But if we go to the last 15 games, you can sim because that's 2 weeks, realistically, because most teams play 4 or 5 games a week. So this is roughly the last 2 weeks, maybe edging on 3 weeks. You can go to the last 7 games, the last 30 games. You can go to the last few seasons, and you can see how teams are doing defensively versus the position you're looking at. So say I'm looking at a Luka Doncic line. I'm going to want to see how many points the other team gives up that he's playing. Obviously, we're looking at Minnesota. Minnesota in the last 15 games of the season, they give up the 5th most points, averaging 28.18 points per game to opposing point guards. That's a matchup we love to see. So obviously, that's going to be in favor of the bet I'm looking at if I'm looking to bet the over. But if I was trying to bet the under and say he's playing Denver Nuggets, who only allows 16 points per game, that's another thing that we can look at, that we can easily throw into our write-ups, that we easily can throw into our logic of why we're taking a bet and be like, okay, boom. That's super simple. I found it right here. If it's rebounds, same thing. You can see which teams do well against point guard rebounds. You can change the position to centers, see what the positions do worse against centers, better against centers. So most of the time, we keep it between 15 and 7 days. Obviously, 30 is a little bit far out. That's a whole month sample size. Maybe when we're in the middle of the season, I'll use that. But for the most part, I try to keep it within like the past 2 weeks. Now we're going to head to more of the advanced stats. And again, we're just going to glance over this because we're going to have probably an advanced video for this coming out later. But the advanced stats go as simple as this. You look at the advanced, you're looking pretty much at a bunch of numbers that you're probably like, what the fuck is on my screen if you don't really bet that much. This is a lot of jibber jabberish. Okay, we're going to focus on one percentage, and that's usage. Usage is a very big percentage along with pace. These two things are the only things you need to look at when you're on the advanced metrics NBA stats screen. Okay, we can filter by literally any team. Any team in the playoffs. Go playoffs, any team, how many games you want to look at. Let's go to the last 3 games. Okay, keep it simple. Let's go to like the Timberwolves because I like Ant. Sure. Boom, you're going to look at this and you're going to see what's the usage for each player. How much are they getting used in the last 3 games? Because this is a massive percentage to look at. If you're like, what the fuck is usage? Gut. Usage is a very important stat for the NBA because it looks at the total totality of how much someone is being used throughout the game. How many times are they touching the ball? How many shots are they taking? How much times are they getting a pass to assist or just a regular assist? How many times are they going in for the rebound? How many times is the offense going through this player? That is what the usage is. So when you look at usage percentage, obviously you see Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns are massive. When Naz Reid is on the court, he's a pretty high usage, 18.6%. Anytime this line is over 20, that's very good. Anytime this line is over 30, you're like, that's the superstar. If the usage is over 30, that is a superstar. I don't really care. Or the all-star on the team. That's the player that's going to be touching the ball majority of the time. Now, again, there's outlier games, so don't get completely wrapped into this. But you also want to look at pace. Pace is how fast are they pushing the rock. Some teams, like the Knicks, don't push the ball fast. They want to set up their offense. They want to get into it. Teams like that, they're going to have lower pace. So that means the game's normally going to be lower scoring. That means when you're looking at numbers like this, you're going to want to see, are they going to take as many threes? Are they going to be pushing in transition as much? That's what pace can kind of tell you, and we're going to dive into more of that in the next video. Now we're on to advanced stats of like specific numbers. Again, we just went over usage, we went over all that sort of stuff. So now we have the passing stats, we have the rebounding. If we want to go here, we have pull-up shots, we have catch and shoot, we have defensive impact, we have touches, all these sort of things that you can be used whenever you're looking at a bet. If you're looking at a steals, blocks, obviously you're going to look at defense. If you're looking at something else, you can look at rebounds, passing, assists. Now again, you're going to look at this and be like, gut, why the hell do I need to see potential assists? Why do I need to see it? I already have that on Props.Cash. There's no need for me to see that right now. So, you don't need it, okay? You don't need it. You have it on Props.Cash, but it's good to double check. Double check sites. Sometimes they're wrong, and shit happens. So you just want to make sure you're double checking on both websites so you have the right thing. NBA.com is going to be absolute most accurate all the time. They normally never mess up the numbers, so I would always kind of rely on them to always just double check on. You have assist points created. What that means is, again, you're going to have how many times they pass the ball, and that ends up being points. You also have adjusted assists, which is a good stat to use. And again, the highlighted stat that I have, which is assist to pass percentage, is going to be very important. How many times do they pass the ball into a potential assist, or how many times do they pass the ball into an actual assist? Obviously, those things are going to be very important when you're looking at assist numbers. Obviously, if you're looking for the under, this is something you're going to want to veer away from if the number is very high, if they lead the team in it. Probably not going to lead the under on assists unless their line is insanely high. If Anthony Edwards is 10.5, and he's only averaging 12 potential assists a game in the past 3 games, and he's only having a 15.8 pass to assist percentage, obviously then that's going to be something you're going to look at. But obviously if the number is where it should be, which is 6.5, I think 7.5 for Ant today, this is going to be a pretty relative thing to look at, and I think it's going to be pretty accurate for you to make your best bet on. Now we are going to hop straight into the MLB. Now, this is very important because MLB, right now, we're going to be in full swing over the summer, so you're going to be looking at a lot of bets. I apologize for the sound in the background if you can hear it. They're doing construction, which is really, really, really annoying, but we're going to persevere, and we're going to push through this and get through the last 2 things we need. Obviously, NFL is going to be pretty quick because it's not NFL season, so there's not much to look at, but I'll show you real quick. MLB, very important. We have ballpark power on our left, and obviously we have Props.Cash on our right. Props.Cash looks a little bit different than the NBA now. We have strikeouts, hits, home runs, HRR, which is home hits, runs, RBIs. I know I get that question a lot. We have total bases, we have walks, we have outs, we have earned runs. We have literally everything you need. Hits allowed. All of it is here. But most of you are going to be looking at dingers. Most of you are going to be looking at hits. Obviously, that's the fun stuff to bet on. But we have every single game here for today lined up that has the lines out. Now, again, if the lines aren't out, they're not going to be on Props.Cash because why the hell would we put lines that aren't existing on the site? So, again, let's go to like Houston, Seattle. Why not? Simple game that we can take advantage of right here. And obviously, we're looking at hits here. So you can see, obviously, the odds. They're more juiced because it's MLB. If you get a hit, it's more likely than not to get a hit in the MLB, I feel like, in this day and age. So the lines are more juicy if you're a good player. Now, if you suck, then, or you're in a slump, then the odds will be in your favor to get a hit. Most of the time, we want to look at HRR. We want to look at total bases for the better plays that we're looking at. Now, if we're looking at a sneaky player, then we're going to look at hits because obviously the line's going to be lower because we want the best odds possible. If we're not going to be taking bets that are minus 160 plus, that are minus even really 155 plus, I tend to veer away from. There's not that much value in the return that you're getting on those bets. So I like to normally stick to 155. Normally, I never even bet that, but try to get under that if you can. The 110s, the 120s is where you want to be. If you can get plus money on a bet that you really like, I love that. Obviously, I do a plus money of the day every day on our Twitter. Make sure you go check out our Twitter because we roll on plus money plays of the day, and we're rolling on MLB plays. Tony puts out plays every day. I put out plays every day, so make sure you go follow that Twitter as well. We're going to be doing strikeouts here just because we're looking at the pitchers today. We're just going to look at Logan Gilbert. We're going to pull this up. So you're going to see the strikeouts here. How many times has he got over this line? Quite a bit this season, right? 73%. If we see it right here, head to head, obviously it doesn't really matter for baseball as much because lineups constantly change, and this is probably going to be like a year's difference. Now again, this year, so that's important to know because again, this is this year, same lineup, same pitching mix, all that sort of shit. Guy hasn't changed at all, same guy, same team, same whatever the fuck. That's important. If it's like previous years, if the pitcher hasn't pitched, which a lot of times right now in the season, early in the season, they haven't pitched from the year prior. Some people might be all the way back in 2022. So yeah, if we're looking at those stats, those aren't going to be very helpful here. But again, if they have played this season, that is helpful to see how they did in previous games. The last 10 games is also very important because obviously with pitchers, you want to see if they're in a groove. Obviously, when he was in this 6+ strikeout groove, you'd want to bet his over almost every time. His line was set at 5.5 a lot. But again, the odds are lower today. You're probably like, well, why aren't they juiced odds tonight? Because he's playing Houston, which if we go over to our left side, we'll see is a very good team against strikeouts. If we filter, they are right now, over the course of the season, struck out the least of any team. And this is MLB.com. Literally, you can find any stat you want here on team hitting stats. This is like simple MLB.com. Nothing too fancy here, right? As you can see the URL at the top if you want to click on that. But again, this is where we can find simple stats. So again, that's why the line looks lower right now. But we can go to, again, 7 days, 15 days, kind of like the NBA if you just looked at that. Now, again, if you're just coming from the MLB, obviously it's going to look a little different. But if you're looking at the past 15 days, they're not in last anymore. They're not the least amount of struck out team or however wording you want to say that. They're actually at 13, which means they're kind of middle of the pack, which means maybe this line is a little bit better than you think. He also already did it once this year if we go back to head to head. So there's some odds here, okay? That's what we like to see. The past 2 games, he's had 2 bad games, though. Only 81 and 78 pitches. Got to look in deeper than that. So obviously this isn't a bet I probably would take. But if you like Logan Gilbert, you like his mix, which we'll get to later, this is something obviously you want to see. You can break it down on the bottom here by batters faced. You can see pitches pitched. Oh, my fat ass head is in the way. Excuse me. Excuse my. Okay. Innings pitched, outs, strikeouts, walks, Ks per 9. If you know like all these baseball stats and all that sort of stuff, which a lot of people might struggle with if you don't play a lot or you don't bet a lot. Obviously, these are going to be questionable things. So if you want the advanced guide, I can go into all these stats and tell you exactly what they mean. And I can even have Tony on for that, for the MLB side of things. But again, you have the projections here from obviously Props.Cash. You have the odds here, which again, there's not going to be as many because normally baseball doesn't have as many odds. So just be on the lookout for that. So you're going to have to find more niche spots to bet, like underdog. It's a great spot. Great spot to bet. You can find damn near any line you want. And honestly, again, his line might be 5 on underdog compared to 5.5, which is huge because you get the push. So make sure you remember that. But again, for baseball, everything's here. If you're looking at a batter, it's going to be hits. It's going to be the same sort of thing right here. You can also see versus the lineup. That is massive on Props.Cash. You can see how the batter is doing, how the batters bat against lefty pitchers, righty pitchers, whatever you're looking at. You also can see the hit rates, the walks, the outs, the earned runs, the hits allowed, all that sort of stuff if you want to bet any of those pitcher stats. So now let's hop into these stats over here. Again, we already went over the strikeout aspect. All right, now that I'm back to my little corner, you can see the stats here, right? Obviously, we went over strikeouts, but there's a lot of other stats we can go over that can be massive. If we go to pitching, and we're looking at pitchers, we can see how pitchers' ERA over the teams are doing. If you're betting on a batter and they're facing a team that has been on fire and has a super low ERA, like say the Yankees right now, and we go to like the last 15 days, or the Yankees again, who also are cooking in the last 15 days, this might be a team you don't want to like do a hitting prop against. Just an idea. Just a thought. Now, I'm not even a Yankees fan. I don't like the Yankees, but they're rolling right now, and the games are pretty low scoring. They're not giving up a lot of ERA. They're not giving up a lot of earned runs, so maybe an HRR play is not the way to go. So, again, there's a ton of stats you can look at, innings pitched, all that sort of stuff from the pitching side of things. Hits, you can see strikeouts, RBIs, home runs, averages, all that sort of stuff. You can see against splits. If you go to year date, you can split everything. Home games on grass, on turf. That's pretty niche stats, if you ask me. Pre-All-Star, over All-Star, advanced AL, batting against left, batting against right, everything you need on MLB.com. So that's massive. Okay, next, I use ESPN.com. Why? I look at splits. I think that's pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. When you're looking at a batter, especially if you're looking at a pitcher too, you can see how they do versus left, how they do versus right. Super simple. I'm not going to waste your time going over this because this is like cut and dry. Obviously, we're going over Vladdy here. But you can see how he does versus lefties, how he does versus righties. You can see his hit split versus righties, hit versus split versus lefties. Obviously, I betted him yesterday, and he fucking cucked me. Cool. That's a lot of fun because he bat really well against righties. I took him in a good righty matchup where he raked before. Yeah, didn't want to do well. That's fine. It's no vendetta. Only a Blue Jays fan. He's only my one of my favorite players to fucking sell me. Cool. That's fun. Ballpark Pal might be the most important thing we go over today from the baseball side of things. This has literally everything you need. It is subscription-based, so you would need to pay money for this. You also need to pay money for Props.Cash, but that is so worth it for the price on Props.Cash. But, again, you need to pay money on Ballpark Pal. Don't have, like, a sponsor or anything, so good luck. On Props.Cash, you can get 25% off your first month by using code GUT. At BDG, we don't have one yet, but we will be getting that down the line. So that's in the works. But Ballpark Pal is massive because you can see matchups. You can see park factors, which means like the wind, the weather, all that sort of stuff matters on the park factors. You can see the starting pitchers for the day, the home run zone, which means what park looks like it's going to be the best for home runs today. You can also see the matchups, which we're going to dive into. Again, we're looking at Logan Gilbert here. So again, there's a lot of numbers to look at, and you can go through if you want on your own or when we go over the advanced stuff. But Logan Gilbert, if you look up that, you can see which player he's probably going to do better against. If it's a high number, like a 10, that's a worse matchup for him. It's a low number in the negatives, that's a better matchup for him. And we can see, let's just go over someone simple, Jordan. Obviously, Jordan's at 0, which means it's a pretty even matchup. You can see their pitcher history. This is huge. 25 ABs, 7 hits. He's batting 280, which means it's a pretty good matchup for him if you're betting the batter here. Gilbert, you're looking at it, could be kind of rough. He could hit a dongski, and we can see every single hit or every single at-bat that he's had. And if you want to watch the at-bat, you can literally click, and you can literally watch the at-bat. Pretty cool stuff to me. I use this a lot. This is the stat I look at a ton. You can see how much, again, frequency here. You can see how much a player pitches the ball. So again, 38% of his pitches are fastballs, 32% are sliders, 14% are splitters, and this is according to Ballpark Pal, so don't take this verbatim, is their grade against or for pitching that pitch or against that pitch. So for Jordan, against fastballs, he hits at an 81% grade, which is very high. 93% grade on sliders, 104 against splitters. This is, again, he's an outrageous hitter. He's one of the best hitters in the MLB. So, again, the numbers aren't going to normally be this high when you're facing just a normal batter type of thing. Any role player, damn near. But for someone like Jordan, obviously his number is going to be higher, and you can see how well he swings at it. 47% swing rate, 81% grade. That's great. 93 grade, 104 grade with a 60% swing. That's really nuts. If he throws a splitter, he's a very high chance of hitting that pitch. So, again, that's the stuff you got to look at. But, again, his splitter, he also has a 102 grade for the pitches. Only pitches it 14% of the time, though. But when he does pitch it, it clearly is effective. His knuckle curve fucking sucks. So if he pitches a knuckle curve, yeah, that thing is going fucking yardo against Jordan. So we'll see what happens there. But this is kind of something that we look at all the time, where it is in the zone. Like, again, if you look at any of my write-ups, any of Tony's write-ups, you'll see these sort of stats all throughout the thing, because this is kind of the one-stop shop you need when you're looking at matchups, when you're looking at batters, when you're looking at all that sort of stuff. This combined with the Props.Cash, boom, you will be making money. As long as you're reading the stats right. And that's not on me. That's on you, buddy. You got to dial in looking at the stats, okay? Little Timmy Jimmy from home. You got to dial the hell in, okay? And know what the hell you're looking at. Don't just bet him because he's a high grade. Bet him because of the pitch mix that he has going against him. Bet him because he's on fire. Bet him because there's a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna quit yapping before I get started. We're already like 20 minutes into this video. Next, we have NFL. Dub. Why is there a video? Enough. Dub video, NFL. This is where a lot of you probably going to skip to. Obviously, there's no Props.Cash NFL right now because it's not NFL season. But you will see some very similar, more like to the NBA, I would say, than the MLB, where you'll have the stats of rush yards, pass yards, all that sort of jazz. How many times they hit the over? How many times they did it against the prior opponent, which, again, is going to be looking at last year. How many times they get carries, catches, receptions, targets, all that sort of stuff will all be on Props.Cash. So, again, a super useful thing for that when you're looking for bets. And obviously, you see the odds, you see the books, you'll see where you get to on underdog, all that sort of stuff. Very, very important for the future. Now, what we use on the site side of things, which is what we're going to dive into. 33rd Team is a site that I love to use, and everybody that I know that bets on the NFL uses this. Everyone that uses fantasy football bets on this and knows it and uses 33rd Team. It is like one of the best sites of all time, because you can go to basic defense when you go to defensive settings. And again, we are in the edge side of the 33rd Team. You can see against quarterbacks, the fantasy points. You can see the pass attempts. Who has the most pass attempts? Who allows the most pass attempts? Who allows the most pass yards? Who allows the most rush attempts? Who allows the most rushing yards? Who allows the highest catch rate? Who allows the most receiving yards? All this sort of stuff. You can go to a per game basis. Again, this is super basic, but it allows you which defenses are the worst against what. So what matchups are best against what. Obviously, if you're running back and you're going to rush yards per game, you're not going to want to bet on a guy who's going against Detroit. They have a great run D. You're not going to want to bet on a guy that's going against San Francisco. They have a great run D. And again, you can filter this by weeks, by snaps, by seasons, by teams, all that sort of stuff going forward. So again, this is an awesome, awesome, awesome thing to use. 33rd team has always been super clutch. Yeah, so again, we're going to be using that a ton. 33rd team, the GOAT. Next, fantasy life utilization report. This motherfucker is, if you're betting on receivers, this is the best thing to look at because it tells you routes, percentages, how many times they run a route, how many times they're targeted on that route, how many targets they're getting, how many catchable targets are they getting, the ADOT, which is the average depth of target, air yards, end zone targets, third and fourth down targets, play action targets, PPR points, PPR rank, all that sort of stuff. This is very, very, very important. Obviously, you can filter by team. You go literally any team in the league, any position you want. Obviously, quarterback's going to be a little bit different here. You're just going to mainly see snap count, all that sort of stuff, which it's not as valuable for that, but it is valuable for receiving running backs and receiving receivers on whatever team. So obviously, we're looking at the Cardinals, and this is the last year's stats. So you're going to see Hollywood Brown here, who's obviously not on the Cardinals anymore, but you're going to see how many times you ran a route. If you're looking to bet on someone like Michael Wilson, you go, oh, okay, Marvin Harrison just got moved into that, I would say, Marquise Brown slot where he's obviously the alpha wide receiver one. How is Michael Wilson going to do as a wide receiver two? Well, you look, he ran 92% of routes last year, 93, 94, 84 at the end of the season in the last game. How many times was he targeted on those routes? 15%, solid 8%, not hot. But anything over that 12 to 15% mark is where you want to look at for those targets per route run mark. And then obviously look at how many targets did he get comparative to how many snaps he had, how many routes he ran. And obviously you want the targets to be catchable because if he's just getting untargeted throwaways, that's not going to be useful for you when you're betting on his over, or if you're betting on his under, you're like, okay, that's what we want to look at. Obviously, you're going to look at ADOT, average depth of target. This is important for a multitude of reasons. How many times he's probably going to catch a deep touchdown? How many times when he catches the ball is he going to be getting it at 10 yards plus? So again, for fantasy perspective, that's massive. For betting perspective, his yards, that's also massive. All that sort of stuff that we can break down again in a future video when it gets closer to football season. I will be doing this guaranteed in the football season, breaking down all the NFL sites before the NFL season kicks off. So you know how to make the most money. So we will be doing that later in the future. And I'll go over literally, like, I'm going in depth on every stat. And we're going to go over specific players, all that sort of stuff. So make sure if you're looking forward to that, leave a like down below. Next thing we're going to look at is the fantasy points data. This is going to cost you a little bit of money, but it's very much worth it. You get every single stat you damn near need. You have advanced passing stats. You have passing depth of target. You have the matchup coverages. Again, this is huge for people that like betting on if he's running a cover 3, if he's running a cover 2, if you even know what the fuck cover 2 is. Good luck. If you play Madden, you probably do. But I'm talking about from like a real life perspective. It's a lot different. Okay, basic rushing stats, advanced rushing stats. How many times do they go yards after contact? What's their missed tackle rate? All that sort of stuff. Bell cow report, I don't really need that. That's more like the Kyron Williams of last year when he came onto the scene randomly. Is he really a bell cow? And you kind of get that usage rate. And you can figure that all out, like the Saquon Barkleys of the world, all that sort of stuff, how much they're actually getting used in relative to the rest of the team. Receiving, you have your advanced receiving stats. First down reads is a massive stat. How many times are they getting the first read from the quarterback? I said first down reads, I meant first reads. But how many times are they getting the first read from the quarterback? That means the quarterback takes the snap, looks exactly at the player. How many times is that happening to you, the guy you're betting on? That's what you got to need to know. Chris Olave gets it a lot. He's a guy I like to bet on. Fun fact, we're going to dive into that later. Routes run, wide receiver matchups, all that sort of fun stuff. Obviously, will be the efficiency reports, snap reports. All this sort of stuff is so, so important. I love this site. It's literally, again, it's kind of a one-stop shop where you can get all the numbers and nitty-gritty stuff you need if you're a guy that likes to dive into the deep numbers like I do. If you like the surface numbers, that's fine. Stay on Props.Cash. That'll be fine. You can live with that. Okay, obviously I use StatMuse. Again, Chris Olave. We're not actually going to go over him today, but here's like just some numbers by him. You can kind of go over. You can see the targets they're getting. You can see the yards they're getting. You see the average yards they're getting. This, again, is more basic, but it's just all in one. It's a clean lookout. You can use it. And then obviously we have NFL.com, which is the player stats that are the most accurate of all time. I'm not going to go to any other site that is not the NFL to double check my stats because the NFL is the NFL. They're going to have the NFL stats. Period. Seems pretty simple. They're not going to fudge the numbers at all, which, again, I know it sounds crazy, but some sites do fudge the numbers or they just mess it up by accident, which, again, is perfectly fine. It happens. I get it. But we want the most accurate numbers when we're betting because we're betting. We're using our money. So I always go to NFL to double check every number I'm looking at before either I post it on Twitter or whatever I'm doing, or if I go over a YouTube video, you always want to double check on NFL.com. So make sure you guys are doing the same thing. And that is the video. We've gone over NFL, MLB, and NBA. We've gone over where to find stuff, how to find stuff, what numbers we're kind of looking at. We're going to have an advanced guide, as I said, probably 30 times throughout this video. So I'm very excited to kind of do that. That's going to be a fucking long ass yap sesh. To go over all the nitty gritty numbers so we can make bank, because that's the goal. We want to make a lot of money. You want to make a lot of money? I want to make a lot of money. We're in this together. Shake my hand. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe down below, and let me know what you guys want to see next. We're going to have videos coming out 2 times a week for now. We're going to have live streams 3 times a week for now. So make sure you guys stay tuned and stay live with the channel. We're going to be rocking out damn near like 5 days a week. 5 days of content a week. Dub. So check us out. Make sure to like and all that sort of shit below and leave a comment. I'm leaving. Peace.